It's me again. I'm going to continue reading from my book, The 1900s. And I think I'm almost done with it. So let's go! Theodore Roosevelt, model of the age. The era's most famous progressive sported a prominent set of whiskers, a distinctively toothy grimace, pince-nez eyeglasses, and a jaw as solid as a rock. Theodore Roosevelt was the kind of president that American historian Frederick Jackson Turner could appreciate. Sorry, I have hair all over my feet. Just trying to get that off because it was bugging me. A New York aristocrat who, by dint of his enthusiasm for the rugged life, had every right to claim that he too was a Western man, all but more resident, except that T.R., as he was affectionately known, by nature he led for 7 years, was really most at home in a seat of power, and at that preferably the one in the White House. Roosevelt was so much a man of his time, he embodied so many of its popular preoccupations, even some of those that seemed to be in conflict. It is hard not to think of him except as a character of the age. Who could better represent America's fresh sense of geographical definition than T.R., who, as biographer Edmund Morris points out, was born of a southern mother and a northern father, yet was himself an Easterner whose fascination was with the West? Who could better stand for the sometimes racially questionable declaration of a new American breed than this passionate follower of social Darwinism who had come to national attention with his charge of Cuba's San Juan Hill in the Spanish-American War of 1898, a triumph that helped claim, he said, the place of Americans among the great fighting races of the world. Who could better display America's emerging social conscience than chief executives believed not only in the natural right of the strong to prevail over the weak, but also that the strong should, by moral purpose, work in defense of the weak. A president who wrote his senior essay at Harvard on the tractability of equalizing men and women before the law, and who saw the government as responsible for curbing the abuses of the wealthy and standing up for the interests of both labor and consumer, and who could better represent the modern quest for efficiency than this dynamo who, by the age of 43, had authored dozens of books and served as New York State Assemblyman, United States Civil Service Commissioner, and Police Commissioner of New York City, Assistant Secretary of the Navy, Governor of New York, Vice President, and finally President. Yet, even as Roosevelt was initiating the nation's first tentative steps toward the social conscience that Turner had envisioned as America's next great adventure, he was also prodding the nation's attention toward what he saw as the preeminent civilization's responsibilities abroad. And while much of that was rhetoric to the debate that prompted what, like most conflicts at this time, foreshadowed a discussion that would run throughout the century. Still, the president's interest in the world of international politics was more personal than political. Like most of the chief executives who have followed him in this century, T.R.'s ego sought the exposure that only the grander stage of world politics could provide him. In 1905, he personally forced an end to the Russo-Japanese War, earning himself a Nobel Peace Prize. In his parade, the United States Navy fleet around the world in 1901, done in defiance of Congress, was muscle-flexing gesture more demonstrative of the scrappy boyhood boxer's instincts that remained with Roosevelt his entire life in a popular mood. Most Americans simply did not yet want the role in international affairs that T.R. was ready to thrust upon them. Du Bois and Washington, men of reason. Just as it is hard at the end of the 20th century to contemplate America's early century innocence, so too is it hard to contemplate the nation's unashamedly high level of bigotry. A time when popular magazines regularly described blacks as niggers or coons, darkies, or pick annies. This is not my opinion. I am not like that. But that's what it says in the book. That's what it says in the book, okay? That's what blacks were called back then. Okay, this is not my opinion. This is the book. I'm just reading right from the book. Okay? So don't get mad at me for saying those words. Because not me, it's the book. Just remember that. When adult black men were called boy, and the characters of the time, Uncle Ben and Aunt Jemima. I miss that syrup. I miss Aunt Jemima syrup. I mean, like, it's still here, but it's called a different name. But I like the name Aunt Jemima. Change it back! Anyways, continuing, demonstrated the depths of understanding with which white Americans view the black personality. This was a day when the term race riot referred most likely to white people bringing violence down on blacks, not the opposite as it came to mean in the later half of the century. When a visit to the White House by black leader Booker T. Washington in 1901 was greeted with public censure. Roosevelt dined with a nigger, read the headline on one paper. And when in some places in the South it was deemed so entertaining to see a black man suffer that theaters were reserved for lynching. For blacks living under such conditions, life became defined by a kind of repeated duality. They were both black and American, free and enslaved, equal and inferior. Writing in his landmark 1903 book, The Souls of Black Folk, W.E.B. Du Bois declared that African Americans' life was defined by this two-ness. An American, a Negro, two souls, two thoughts, two unreconciled strivings, two warriors' ideals, in one dark body whose dogged strength alone keeps it from being torn asunder. And yet Du Bois himself, along with Booker T. Washington, defined still another two-ness in a way that each chose to advocate for a separate path to black progress. Du Bois, the voice of protest, pushing the white power structure to grant greater freedom and ensure equality. Washington, the spokesman for self-improvement, whose philosophy had been so eloquently uttered in his speech at the 1895 Atlanta Exposition, an address in which he became the first black leader to advise the African American to acquiesce in both disfranchisement and some manner of Jim Crow, and to cast down your bucket where you are and to build a life apart from mainstream white society. Had black Americans chosen to follow Washington, the history of racial relations in the 20th century might have been very different, but Du Bois, while in agreement with Washington on some matters, eventually offered an alternative philosophy, and in the end, it was his that won the day. Anyone looking for roots in the American Civil Rights Movement of the 20th century should start with the decision to follow Du Bois, a walking cane and white glove mulatto elitist who had been born into freedom in the North, was educated at Harvard and believed that the Negro race could be saved by its exceptional men. Okay, I'm on the last part. Yay! The big dish ushers in a new era. In 1913, at roughly the same time that New Yorkers were scoffing at modern paint, a project more uniformly pleasing to contemporary sensibility was nearing completion. 2,300 miles south of Manhattan, the dream uniting the Atlantic Ocean with the Pacific, of a canal bisecting the thin strip of land connecting North America to South America, had dated back to the time of Spanish exploration in the 16th century. Ever since gold was discovered in California in 1848, prompting the building of a Panama Railroad connecting steamships on either side to rush prospectors to the dreamland and back home again. Americans had been especially frustrated by the desire to have a connecting waterway all their own, a way to move freight and passengers from coast to coast with ease. No president loved the challenge more than Teddy Roosevelt, and just as John Kennedy would set his sights on the moon more than half a century later, TR set out to claim for America the rights to the world's greatest technological feat. America itself would dig the big ditch, as it became popularly known. And by the time the canal opened in August 1940, a good 6 months ahead of schedule, TR, though along out of the White House, would remain the personality most associated with it. Like Roosevelt himself, the canal was a bridge between two eras. The idea belonged to the 1800s. Its grandeur, its hubris, its brazen display of the colonial mentality. But its execution would have been impossible without the tools of the modern period. At almost the precise moment that America's great engineering feat became a reality, declaring in the minds of many the arrival of an age of unambiguous technological achievement, popularly to turn elsewhere toward Europe and the event that would consume the world in darkness. And that's basically it. Look for a post that I'm going to do where I'm going to write out the chronology of the 1900s, like it is in the book. So look out for that, because I'm going to post that probably soonish. I don't know when yet, but look out for that. And then I'm going to go on to the 1910s. This is 1900s. I don't know why I'm showing this book. But yeah, I'm going to go on to the next one, which is the 1910s. So look out for that. I don't know when I'm going to rent that book from the library just quite yet. But look out for it. And please rate, subscribe, and comment down below on how you think I did with the 1900s. Because I like this series. I like the America's Decade series. Because it's really fascinating. It goes into like really great depths. It's just like all around a great book to read. And I'm going to be selling this one. So look out for when I post on Mercari and eBay. So, and also check out those for my other books and other stuff that I'm selling. And if you're on YouTube, please ring that bell notification so that you can know when I post the 1910s. And if you're on TikTok, please like and follow my videos. And yeah. So, please follow for that. And I'm also going to post the chronology on my I can think it, but I can't really say it. I don't know why. On Pinterest, no. But anyways, I'll think about it later and let you all know in the comments down below, okay? Because I'm just so exhausted. So, yeah. Bye.